Monalisa Smith, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Mothers for Justice and Equality. Can you start by telling us what is Mothers for Justice and Equality and what's your mission?
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited about sharing the work that Mothers for Justice and Equality is doing and our impact in the community. Mothers for Justice and Equality was started in 2010 by mothers who lost children to senseless violence. And the reason for our work was really to raise awareness that the loss of life of our children was just not being seen the way it should. And so we organized ourselves and we met in the church basement and we started this movement to raise awareness and build this momentum about our children's lives matter and that we were losing them at this alarming rate. And I started to think about this work that Mothers Against Drunk Driving was doing. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what, here we have these suburban mothers who lost, her daughter to drunk driving. And she started this movement to really raise awareness that it wasn't okay. And I said, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that with our children in the urban community? And why can't we raise awareness that their life mattered to us, right? And we didn't just lose, our child, but the community lost something. And that's how we got started, really about educating people that our children's lives matter, and that losing them meant that we were losing the next president of the United States or the next inventor of something special. And many times when we lose children at such an enormity at that rate, we sometimes become, desensitized, right? So over and over again, we stop feeling like what it's like to have such a loss. And at that time when Mothers for Justice and Equality was created, we had young children that were laying in the street and they would be covered up and you would see their little feet underneath the sheet. You would see buses drive by. There would be these stabbings of children and shootings and people were numb. They were numb because if you really thought about that, the grief would be overwhelming and you wouldn't be able to sustain that, right? And so our work was about really, desensitizing people, letting folks understand what that pain and grief really felt like, right? And so we did that through our stories, right? The mother telling her story in such a way that the individual would be able to understand the enormity of the loss.
Right.
And that's how we begin to really change the hearts and the minds of individuals who didn't really understand what was happening. There was this, this notion that, that these children that were being lost were bad kids, or these were bad mothers, or this type of thing, believe it or not, should have happened. And we had to change that. Because these were good children and they were from good families and these mothers were caring and loving women. And I remember, when I was in banking and I first started Mothers for Justice and Equality, I remember there was this reporter and she had approached me and she said, oh, I really want to do a story on this group or this movement that you're doing and I want to understand it better. And I connected her with some of the mothers. And she made this statement to me, and she said, well, many of this is because, these mothers, are not really paying attention to their children. And, being a banker, right, I'm able to just kind of absorb it a little bit and just kind of say, okay, let's see. And so she did the interviews with the mothers I had connected her with, and she came back to me and she said, I am so sorry. She said, I have a son and he's 5 years old and I am so sorry because I just didn't know. And I felt like, my work was good, right? That now she was sensitized and she understood that what we were being told by the media, that this was gang violence and these codes, was not true. And that was our work. That was the work, to raise this awareness in our community that we were losing our children and their lives mattered, and that our entire community was losing someone. And these brave women, used the story of their children to change the hearts and minds of individuals so they could now support this movement.
Absolutely, and this is, like you said, a revolutionary movement. Almost the first time women are speaking up and defending themselves in their role as mothers. And they said, we are not failures. We did our best and we care for our children. We can't let this happen in the future.
That's right.
So who is most vulnerable in our communities, and what does Mothers for Justice and Equality do to help protect them?
Yeah. So, our mission is to end violence by empowering individuals to be change agents in their community. So when you begin to think about that as a mission, you think about taking those that are victims, those that have lost children to violence, those that have lack of resources, and beginning to empower them by educating them, by helping them to see themselves on the other side of their circumstances, right? And so who's vulnerable? Those that are being underserved, right? Those in communities where there's high rates of violence, where trauma is at an all-time high, where there's not enough mental health services to deal with some of the traumatic experiences. Women of color are vulnerable, right? Because there's this expectation that we can carry the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? And we always have this brave face, right? Our youth are vulnerable. Many of them have lost siblings and friends and parents to murder and incarceration, and they're left to burden, a lot of this on their own. And when they go into the schools or they go into, different recreation centers, no one wants to talk about this, right? So they've learned to push it down. They learn to suppress it. But the reality is that you can only suppress it for so long until it gets overwhelming and it starts to explode, right? And so that's the vulnerable population. Those that are unseen, those that are unheard, those that are untreated, and those that society has just put this weight on that it's okay, that you should be able to handle it, right? And so that's what we have to begin to address. And part of addressing that is to create an emotional safe space for them, right? To give them a space where they can begin to talk about some of those things that are happening to them. A space where they can understand that the murder and the violence and the incarceration of your children, your parents, your siblings is not okay, right? And so helping them to not just get a job, but helping them to keep the job, right? And a lot of that is addressing mental health. A vulnerable population is those that are suffering from untreated, undiagnosed mental health. So we have a lot of vulnerable people all around us in our community. And so our approach to doing that is very much has to be thought out and strategic and operate in this patient model where you can educate a person and let them know that your trauma is real and this is how you can treat it, where you can give them a safe space that they can talk about what's happening with them in their home and not feel that there's going to be, some retribution to them. Also, you can create this space where you can help them get a job, right? And help them sustain the job, continue to work with them and coach them. And an atmosphere where they come into and they feel appreciated and wanted. And that's what you'll find at Mothers for Justice and Equality. That kind of space where people can walk in the door and they can feel accepted and wanted, and they can get the services that they need, and there's no judgment.
Yeah, it's such a rare opportunity to find a space like that where there's no judgment and people are there to help you and they see you as you are. So what are your plans for the next few years in terms of what you see for Mothers for Justice and Equality?
Well, you know, Mothers for Justice and Equality is such a unique model, right? It's built as a movement with a sustainability you know, feature. And so what I mean by that is that, you know, we've ensured that that we have a space in Boston. So we acquired a building in Hyde Park. We operate in Roxbury as well. We seek to always diversify our revenue sources. And where we see ourselves going in the next 3 years is we identify that we need to be able to serve individuals who are vulnerable, right? Those individuals that we know will need our services, right? We go into the prison and we work with young men and women who are behind the walls, and we prepare ourselves for when they get out, they have some resources in a support system that we can do. Job creation is important to us, right? We can do all the programming we want, but the person needs a job. And so, so continuing to build our employment model that is trauma-informed, but also we are going to open a social enterprise, right? We're going to open a repeat boutique, and this store will give our stakeholders an opportunity to donate, you know, some of their you know, things that they no longer use, right?
Cool.
And we'll be able to then offer them back to our community members.
Wow.
But more excitingly is that we'll create a place for them to have a job and for training. And so when our family advocates are looking for a place for them to be employed, they can say, well, you know what? We have a job for you in the boutique, right? We have a place for you.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited about that opportunity, because we do also hire a lot of the individuals who come in for the case management. We offer them jobs, and a few of them are doing outreach work. They're doing some admin work. But that's what makes us, this grassroots movement, right? Yeah. That not only are we helping those that come in the door, but we're also making sure that the people who are serving them are a reflection of the people who walk in the door. And that's so important, that when you're in trouble, that you can be able to talk to somebody who you can relate to.
So violence is a huge problem in these communities. What are some of the root causes of violence, and how do people get out of these situations? How can we pull them out?
Violence stems from poverty.
Right.
So whenever you have impoverished communities, when you have people who are being underserved, you're going to see violence, right? Dr. King talked to us about that, where he said that poverty is the root cause of violence, right? And so how we begin to tackle that is we begin to eliminate poverty, right? We help people to get jobs. We help them to become entrepreneurs. We help them to become more relational with their families, right? We start to heal communities. We help them to have good housing and good educational programs. So once we begin to do that, we begin to deal with this impoverishment in our communities. And then we'll see lessen of violence, because hope starts to rise, right? So hope starts to come up. And when people have hope, they're less likely to be, violent toward each other, right? And so that's how we get rid of violence, is that we start to invest in the people, right? And we start to build things that will outlast us, and then we start to heal the community. We start to make sure that they get mental health treatment that they need. We start to make sure that their children get the education that they need. We start to make sure that they get the jobs that they need. We start to make sure that they have adequate housing and they have support circles. And once we start to see that, right, we'll see an end to violence, right? I truly believe that the violence will end when the people say so. Right? The police are great, right? But the police can't end violence, right? They can lock people up, right? They can put a Band-Aid on it, but the only way violence ends is when we as a people come together and we start to create and work in collaboration with police and city and state, and we say our communities are no longer going to be violent, right? And that takes a lot of organizing and prayer, right? Prayer is important. It really is.
It really is.
You know, it really is, because prayer will start to help individuals to build up that hope, that resistance, right? So resistance is a big deal, right? And you know, we are in a time where resistance has to matter, right? We're in a time where we're seeing, you know, an erosion of the safety net. We're in a time where we're seeing, you know, our administration beginning to take away basic necessities that human beings need, right? Certain people no longer have a voice, right? And they want to be invisible, right? And so we as organizational leaders, as grassroots movements, we have to now begin to rise up, right? And really begin to make a movement so that the people feel that the hope still exists, right? That you may cut my SNAP, but we have a food pantry for you, right? You may cut the rental assistance, but we have an emergency fund for you, right? I may not be able to buy the clothes I want for my child anymore, but you know what? We got a repeat boutique for you. Yeah. And we have a whole network of folks that have brought all these fancy things that never wear them, that want to donate them, and now you have all of those things, right? That's what we got to do as a community. And that's when we're going to see, right, like hope exist. And I'm really excited about it. You know, when I talk about hope, I get very excited about that, because I know that things, material things can fade, right? And I know that you know, that trouble can come, but when we stick together as a community, that's when we're going to see the difference. And I always think about this quote that President Obama said, and he said, you know, we're all looking for you know, for somebody to come and help us. But, and I'm paraphrasing, but we are the help that we're looking for. We're that person, right? You and I, we're the help that we're looking for, right? And so we just have to recognize that and move in that space. And everything we need, I believe, is right here. And we won't fail the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, before we had all of these wonderful programs through the federal government like SNAP and WIC that helped so many people, we had grassroots organizations that were here, that were on the ground, boots on the ground, here to help people, especially in Boston. And, you know, we have to keep that mindset. Absolutely.
And
keep that hope.
And they're still here. They haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly.
And there's a whole community of philanthropists that are ready to support those movements, right? And so we just have to have a strategy, a plan, and we got to be able to move into that. And I wanted to share, this is my book, I wrote this, so a lot of times people will say, oh, how did you build Mothers for Justice and Equality, and what brought you to this space? And I said, you know what, I'm gonna write it all down. And so that anyone who wants to know about how to build a movement that lasts, you can just get the book. And if you can't afford it, just call me. I'll give it to you for free. And then, then this is a book I wrote, and it's A Cup of Tea for the Soul, A Journey of Healing and Reflection. And it's actually a self-help guide.
Oh, wow.
So it really kind of talks about like how we break the silence and the cost of silence. It talks about like, creating safe space for healing.
Right.
And it really just takes a person right through, how do they do that?
Right.
And you could do like, a tea with your friends and just kind of like take them right through like these kind of things that you can create that space of healing for yourself. Right. And each year, we kind of share our work nationally, so we have a national convening, right. Because I do believe that there's a power in connectivity. So we do this Mothers Against Violence National Conference, and we've been doing it for 10 years, and Boston University kind of partners with us and the mayor, and we bring women and men who have lost children to violence and who have started grassroots movements out of grief, and we bring them together, and one, we heal through this connectivity, we build capacity in them, and then we build this network where they can support each other until we meet again. And so it's such a powerful time for all of us to get together. And I thought to myself, when the election happened, and I was feeling some kind of way about what's next for us, and I said, you know what, this is the time. This is the time to activate the grassroots movements. Right. This is the time to invest in them. And I was so happy because I really felt like we already did it. We're already ready, right? Yeah. We're already in position yes. to be there for the people, for those individuals that are vulnerable, for those individuals that can't speak for themselves because they're in such pain, right? We're ready for this resistant movement, right? We're in position to make the difference, and I'm really excited about that because I do believe that we were created for a time such as this, and in this time we're going to see the change that is needed. And I truly believe, right, in difficult times, that's when you're going to see leaders rise up. Right. You're going to see new businesses come out of these women and men. You're going to see their children get into higher education. I know people are concerned, like, wow, diversity and inclusion is leaving. Affirmative action is under attack. The Voting Rights Act is under attack. But you know what? We were built and we were taught that those things can fade away, but we will still vote, right? Exactly. We were built and we were taught that those things can fade away, but we are still going to get our children in the best schools, right? We can compete in that space, right? So you can take away those things, but you can't take away the resilient spirit of the people, right? That got us there. So we're not gonna go away, and we're not going to shrink because of it. Like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high, right?
Exactly.
We're built to last.
Exactly.
And so I don't think, it'll be a little challenging for some, but if those that are strong stand behind those that need a little push, then we'll get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as long as we keep having these conversations
exactly.
and keep creating that hope for these people who need it.
That's right.
We're going to be okay.
That's right.
I think so.
But they need to hear the voices of those and just remind them that don't get caught up in the hype. Don't listen to the sensationalism, right? Read between the lines, right?
Talk to your people.
Talk to your people, right? Those that came before you left us a blueprint, right? Dr. King left us a blueprint. Exactly. Others left us a blueprint. Why do we think that, they did all that work and now here we are and we're like nervous about what? right?
Yeah.
They didn't have all that stuff. They
Yeah.
fought for that stuff.
Yeah.
What are we nervous about, right? We have been given the blueprint. We have seen the results of resiliency. We have nothing to be concerned about.
No.
But we have everything to be hopeful for.
Right. With all this in our back pockets, it's feasible to forge the way forward, you know, and
Exactly.
create a new system
Exactly.
that treats everybody.
Yep.
So where can our viewers learn more about Mothers for Justice and Equality?
Well, you can go to our website, www.mothersforjusticeenequality.org. Also, we have a YouTube channel. You can watch some videos if you like, and you can visit any one of our offices located in Roxbury and in Hyde Park. And so we would love to have people come to visit us, and our team is ready to serve the people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much,
Thank
Monalisa,
you.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Is there anything before we finish up?
I don't know. I'll think about it.
Okay. Okay.
I think I talked a lot. Sorry.
No, you